What's going on, man? It's your boy Butler, man. It's the best day of my life. Tomorrow's not promised. Go ahead and do your little dance while they're playing your song. So I want to bring something to your attention, man. Right now, in many southern prisons are operating at 60 to 75% staffing capacity. Georgia Department of Corrections has reported thousands of vacant correctional officer positions in recent years. Alabama's prison system has been under federal investigation for violence and understaffing. Mississippi's Parchman facility faced national scrutiny for inmate deaths, staff shortages, unsafe housing conditions. Understaffing leads to increased inmate on inmate violence, delayed medical care, contraband trafficking, reduced supervision, mental health deterioration, extended lockdowns. When there are not enough officers, dorms run themselves, gangs run movement, violence becomes currency. So, when a prison is understaffed, control shifts, not officially, but practically. Let's dive off into it.
A team has learned tonight that inmates in Florida prisons organized a sit-down to protest prison conditions. I-Team investigator Adam Walser has been uncovering details about the planned demonstration and the actions the state has taken to stop them.
Flyers like this one have been circulating among the state's inmate population for the past several days. They're aimed at encouraging inmates to participate in peaceful protests that they hope will convince legislators to reform Florida's prisons. This email sent to us anonymously had links to multiple I-Team crisis and corrections stories, as well as information about a planned sit-down demonstration scheduled to begin Monday at Taylor Correctional Institution in North Florida. The flyer says "This is war," which stands for "We are responding." According to an email from a Florida Department of Corrections spokesperson, 14 inmates, about 1% of the prison population at Taylor, refused to work in food service Monday. The flyer encourages prisoners statewide to refuse prison work assignments in an effort to send legislators a message. The flyer says year after year they fail to do anything comprehensive to fix the atrocities and destruction caused by their criminal and inhumane legislation. State Senator Jeff Brandes agrees lawmakers haven't done enough.
We have a better plan for electric vehicle charging infrastructure in the state of Florida than we do for our multi-billion-dollar Department of Corrections.
Whose fault is that?
Well, I think it's the legislature's fault. At the end of the day, we have to put forth a strategic plan of how we're going to address facilities, staffing, inmate education, dealing with inmate idleness. We have to deal with all of these issues.
That Department of Corrections spokesperson says that the planned protests there at Taylor Correctional Institution did not cause any disruptions. Families tell the I-Team that they've heard from their loved ones that inmates have gone on lockdown or restrictive movements as.
Let's start with a fact. A report in 2023 showed about 75% of Florida's prisons do not have air conditioning. Marquise McKenzie was behind bars for 2 years at one of them and described the heat like this.
Hell?
Yeah.
They say hell is one of the hottest places, right? But it's hot.
So should prisons have AC? There are layers to that debate, like the ethical one. Former State Senator Jeff Brandes says his faith guides him. Matthew 25:36, I was in prison, and you came to visit me.
Many legislators will go their entire 8 years in office and never visit a prison. They will never go see what people live like inside those facilities.
When Brandes represented the Bay Area, he did, and says he found them inhumanely hot.
What did it feel like inside?
It felt like 105.
Brandes calls it a moral collapse, letting inmates suffer. Inmate advocate Connie Edson agrees.
It's cruel. It's just really cruel.
There's a finite amount of resources.
State Senator Jonathan Martin brings up our next layer, a fiscal one. A report the state commission suggests it would cost $582 million to put air conditioning in every prison. Martin thinks that money is better spent on job training programs and continuing education for inmates.
Could we do more if we moved these resources somewhere else?
There's also a legal layer to the debate.
These are cruel and inhumane conditions that, by the way, borderline violations of these incarcerated individuals' constitutional rights.
The Eighth Amendment outlaws cruel and unusual punishment. State Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith says no AC violates that part of the Bill of Rights. But in court, the state has argued the lack of air conditioning does not pose a substantial risk of serious harm. Brandis says that was the state arguing it's cruel, just not cruel enough.
The question then is, how hot does it have to get to reach that? What is cruel? If it was 110 degrees, 115? I mean, if you could fry an egg on the floor, would that make it cruel and unusual?
When the 8th Amendment was ratified, there was no such thing as air conditioning. To say somehow that not having air conditioning is a violation of your constitutional rights flies in the face of everybody over the age of 30 in the state of Florida who rode a school bus to school without air conditioning.
Another layer to the debate. What is the point of prison? Is it punishment? Is it rehabilitation? Is it a deterrent? I mentioned to everyone I interviewed that turning a prison into a hotel isn't much of a disincentive.
We're not talking about creating the Ritz-Carlton here.
It's not meant to be a luxury hotel. Yeah, we all get that.
But Martin pointed me to a Florida law that says the purpose of prison is to punish. And in his mind,
you don't need air conditioning to survive.
Which is why he doesn't want AC added. Brandis and Smith think the state should pay to add it at every prison, and Edson just wants to raise money to put wall units in every cell she can.
Why are you made to feel like you're not worthy of anything by not having air conditioning?
Interestingly, everyone we talked to would celebrate what happened with Marquise McKenzie. You remember him? 10 years ago, after he got out of prison, he started the Dirt Master cleaning company. He's now successful, working out of an office with air conditioning. Jeff Butera, Spectrum News.
Thanks for watching. Are you
into the Charlotte County facility? He participated in
Local corrections officers are facing charges accused of beating an inmate and covering it up.
As West 2 investigative reporter Greg Fox explains, the incident happened inside the prison in East Orange County.
An inmate being held in minimum security at the Central Florida Reception Center suffered a severe beating last March. Robert Panayotis of Volusia County was taken to the emergency room and suffered permanent disfigurement. One of the corrections officers that was supposed to maintain order and safety behind bars was Samsara Clofat. Instead, she and fellow corrections officer Ruben Saintillis are facing charges of aggravated battery, causing great bodily harm, tampering with physical evidence, and use of force. An Office of Inspector General investigation alleges Clofat assisted Saintillis in a brutal beating. Investigators say Saintillis battered the victim by striking him in the head and face with his radio. They allege Clofat forced the door closed when the victim pleaded for his life. The reason for the beating? Officers thought Panayotis possibly had contraband. With security cameras inside the prison and witness statements from other corrections officers, this case might seem easy to prosecute, but West 2 News has brought you other stories of officers inside prisons attacking inmates, and they don't always go to trial.
It has 3 lumps in his face.
In July 2019, inmate Otis Miller was severely beaten in the yard at Lake Correctional Institution, all captured on video by another inmate with a contraband cell phone. The state fired 4 corrections officers, but in October 2022, prosecutors dropped the case, saying they wouldn't be able to convince a jury which officer caused which injuries to Miller. In this new case, we went to the Orlando home of Saintillis, but no one answered, and authorities believe he's on the run. Clofat will be arraigned later this month. Covering Orange County in Orlando, Greg Fox, West 2 News.
Clofat was granted bond and is off duty on administrative leave. The Florida Department of Corrections gave us an update just a short time ago. In a statement, the agency says, quote, Ruben Saintillis and Samsara Clofat were placed on other temporary duties, which limits contact with inmates on March 3rd and 4th. Saintillis was also dismissed on September 18th, and dismissal for Clofat is currently being processed. We'll keep checking back on the whereabouts on Ruben.
I-Team uncovering how drugs, cell phones, and guns are being smuggled into Florida's prisons.
And I-Team investigator Adam Walser has uncovered that even during the pandemic, when visitors were not allowed in the prison, contraband still kept coming in, and DOC employees were to blame.
This is Florida Department of Corrections video from a recent raid. Using drug dogs and a small army of officers, DOC employees confiscate contraband from inside a prison's walls.
We had several inmates that we found, cell phones, weapons. Those inmates were identified.
They seize drugs worth thousands of dollars and haul inmates away into confinement. In 2019, the Florida Department of Corrections seized 432 ounces of marijuana, nearly 7,500 cell phones, and enough tobacco to make 1.1 million cigarettes. How does it get there? Sometimes the schemes are elaborate. One former inmate used a drone to drop cell phones into a prison yard. Reports show about a dozen arrests of people bringing contraband into Florida prisons during inmate visitations.
I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it would be very, very hard for you to do that.
This inmate's mother says she has to show an ID, pass through metal detectors, and send her belongings through an x-ray machine every time she visits her son in prison.
They'll pat you down, you have to lift up your bra, shake your bra.
She doesn't want to be identified because she fears her son may be retaliated against. What kind of things does your son tell you are in prison that shouldn't be?
Drugs. There's drugs, there's cell phones. You can get as much in there as you can out on the streets.
According to the DOC's latest annual report, contraband is a major source of violence, and contraband introduction has risen, even as COVID limited visitations.
There was no one that they could blame it on, you know, that, oh, this is family members bringing it in and da-da-da-da.
And there were still drugs.
There was more than ever in the last year when we weren't able to go visit our loved ones.
The I-Team reviewed hundreds of arrest reports and found DOC employees themselves are often to blame. More than 50 DOC employees and contractors were arrested in the past 2 years for bringing in contraband.
They're supplementing their income and risking their job in order to bring this contraband in for the inmates.
An officer at Holmes Correctional Institution told investigators he wanted to make more money than his job was paying him. So he brought in tobacco, marijuana, and cell phones, and even delivered a steak and shrimp dinner to an inmate for his birthday.
Senate Criminal Justice 9 to 1130.
Lorette Phillipson, who is now a prison reform advocate, previously served time at Lowell Correctional Institution. What kinds of things would be smuggled into the prison?
Cigarettes, Suboxone, weed. Those were the things that I was aware of.
They talk about how they catch so many of these things and how they do a great job of stopping contraband. Would you disagree with that?
I would totally disagree with that.
One employee smuggled cigars in his socks. Another used a frozen microwave meal box to bring in 2 hotspots, batteries, and hair clippers. And another.
Sources tell our sister station WAFB that several inmates suspected of making and distributing drugs at a Lane Hunt Correctional Center have been moved to Angola. This follows a string of deaths at the prison south of Baton Rouge. 7 inmates have died unexpectedly at Hunt since September. Last year, the prison saw 16 unexpected deaths.
Officials from the Department of Corrections, Iberville Sheriff's Office, and State Police addressed the media this afternoon about a series of deaths at a Lane Hunt Correctional Facility.
According to DOC statistics, 47 inmates died there in 2025, 18 of them unexpected. State Police currently investigating the prison for the second time in 2 years. The investigative unit's Bess Cashley was there to get answers.
Michael Sylvia, Secretary Gary Westcott introduced Travis Day, the 4th warden at Hunt in 2 years, and announced a new deputy secretary as well.
This state is a better place because of what Secretary Westcott and this administration is doing.
In a rare move Monday, the Department of Corrections and other law enforcement agencies addressed recent reports about a series of unexpected deaths at a Lane Hunt Correctional. Mainly numerous reports from inmates and officers inside the facility who claim some of the deaths are the result of drugs being smuggled in.
Just as I, as a citizen, cannot scream fire in a crowded theater, one reporter cannot scream or project a story that's not accurate.
While Secretary Gary Westcott acknowledged that there have been instances of employees bringing in contraband,
this will continue to be a daily fight for our staff trying to do the right thing. And unfortunately, yes, it is a financial opportunity for some of our staff that are here for the wrong reason and easily manipulated by the evils that exist.
The overall scope of the drug issue, which the WBRZ investigative unit has been reporting on for more than a year and a half, was largely downplayed.
In 2025, we had 18 unexpected deaths at Lane Hunt. 11 were determined to be by natural causes, 1 suicide, 2 overdoses, and 4 that are currently pending autopsy.
Regardless, those 18 unexpected deaths have triggered a second investigation by state police.
Our detectives with the Louisiana State Police are working in it.
This time, Westcott says, requested by the department.
They even say they don't see a problem.
Last year, Governor Jeff Landry instructed LSP to figure out how drugs were getting in after watching our reports.
This is the second investigation by state police into Elaine Hunt in 2 years, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you guys not find what you needed to find the first time?
I think it may be two separate issues what you talking about.
Could you explain that?
Yes, ma'am. So the first investigation, we're actually still looking into that, so I really can't go into great detail there.
This was news to us, as we were told last year state police investigation was closed and culminated in the arrest of inmate Broderick Scott for running a sports betting ring.
Okay, it being ongoing must be new because we were told it was closed and the end result was an arrest for a gambling operation.
Yeah, that the gambler is separate from what we are assisting the sheriff's office with, yes.
Over the weekend, I had a number of conversations with Colonel Hodges.
Last year, we brought up several questions about that initial investigation, including how the warrant for Scott's arrest was dated several months before Governor Jeff Landry called for state police to step in and deal with a drug problem at Hunt, and what a gambling ring had to do with deadly drugs infiltrating the prison.
So do you think they made you the face of everything that's going wrong in Elaine Hunt?
Of course they did. I mean, I got out, soon as I got out, I was able to look at my cell phone and I see the coverage was crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's obvious they try to make me the face of what's going on when they don't really want to uncover the truth.
And for this latest investigation, DOC announced the arrest of one employee and summonses for 2 more, but did not specify who or why.
Now you can watch the full press conference on our Facebook page. For the investigative unit, Bess Casserly, WBRZ News 2.
Think about
Taking place right now, an open and honest conversation about the challenges of re-entering society after serving time in jail.
It comes 5 years after Governor John Bel Edwards signed a handful of bipartisan bills into law aimed at reforming the criminal justice system. WDSU reporter Morgan Lentes joins us live with the story about second chances. Morgan.
Yeah, so new at 9, it's been 1 year since Louisiana's historic criminal justice reforms became law. The Louisiana Department of Public Safety and Corrections says it's seeing positive results.
Fox 44's Dion Guillory joins us with a closer look at new numbers and what's next in the plan.
Well, Chad, those new numbers out tonight show the state saving millions of dollars while lowering Louisiana's prison population. While the Department of Corrections says its numbers are ahead of its goal, it says
The legislature once again working to make improvements to the state's troubled prison system.
For years, we've heard about the system's major problems over.
So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to visit different states, and they're different states, different regions, but it's going to be one continuing issue. That is, I've showed you all the crimes and all the drugs and all the things that could take place because of understaffing. Is it just a coincidence it's happening everywhere? Let's really, really pay attention to this epidemic.
Crowding and understaffing. Today, lawmakers addressed the latter.
The state is already in the process of addressing overcrowding by building new prisons. Today, lawmakers heard about efforts to address staff shortages, which could take years to improve. WSFA 12 News political reporter Erin Davis says that's not news they wanted to hear. She's at the State House tonight with details. Erin, just how many positions are there that need to be filled?
Mark, there are 688 funded but vacant positions, all of them for correctional officers. And this has been a long-standing issue with the ADOC and their staffing numbers. Their available reports online show decreases of officer staffing month by month. State leaders attribute the staffing problems to unsafe conditions inside the facilities.
We're 688 correctional officers short of what we're actually funded to have. Nobody wants to come to work, to a job, when they have a high probability of being injured or killed.
The solution, leaders say, are new prisons that will feature cell-style living arrangements for inmates.
It's not going to be solved overnight, so we wanted to be solved as soon as possible, but we have no time frame.
The Elmore County facility is currently under construction. The other newly planned prison will be in Senator Greg Albritton's district, and he's not satisfied with the progress in either location.
Unfortunately, we are stuck with where we are until we get the construction completed, and then we can start doing something real to keep the safety there and also doing much more in regards to doing what we should.
While there is the possibility of potential issues staffing a 4,000 inmate prison, key changes could bring in more employees.
I think people, when they know that the safety factor goes up, that you can come home when you go to work. We worked with state personnel in the governor's office to have location differentials for employees, and we're also looking at compensation packages to be competitive with local law enforcement.
Now, Ham says there is a possibility for pay increases for correctional officers if their budget is approved in March. So far, they've requested $800 million for their next fiscal year.
All right, thanks for the update, Aaron. And those budget hearings will continue for the rest of this week ahead of next month's start of the regular session.
Governor Kay Ivey is asking lawmakers for $40 million to hire 500 additional correction officers to staff state prisons. State Capitol Bureau reporter Rashad Hudson is asking why these additional correction officers are needed.
The Department of Corrections tell me they plan to hire those 500 officers within the next year. And since taxpayers will be footing the bill, we wanted to know why those additional officers are needed.
The violence is a daily occurrence. Some days, some days are better than most, and some days are just outright dangerous.
A dangerous job indeed. Earlier this month, an inmate was fatally stabbed after an assault by another inmate.
We have several inmates, whose backgrounds, whose crimes range from different crimes of murder, rape, theft.
Travis Ivey has worked for the Department of Corrections for 12 years. He says he feels the effects of the staffing shortage daily.
The staff shortage we face, it makes it even more dangerous because now I'm only one officer having to watch 204 inmates per dorm.
In the last 14 months, 13 inmates have committed suicide.
Every suicide is obviously a horrible tragedy for that person, for their family. It's not fun for our staff to see that and have to deal with that.
Associate Commissioner Matthew Brand says the department is asking the legislature to increase the pay for retention.
There's kind of a snowball effect of the shorter staff you get, the harder it is for those officers that are working a post, and then more of them, if they have other opportunities, may leave.
As it relates to those suicides, the DOC is currently facing a lawsuit from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Reporting in Montgomery, Rashad Hudson, WKRG News 5.
Shown at a film festival is shedding light on the conditions inside Alabama prisons. The documentary gives firsthand accounts from 2 inmates in Alabama prisons, as well as the perspective from a former prison guard. WAFF 48's Nick Ballinger logged this report.
It's a documentary going behind bars of Alabama's prisons, revealing what conditions are like inside. The Alabama Solution aired at a film festival in Utah and is now raising one question all over the country.
I guess the real question is, what is going on? What is going on in prison?
George Stacy is a former correctional officer at Limestone Correctional Facility and plays a role in the documentary after he left the prison yard.
And I felt like I prayed for 2 weeks after I left, and I felt like I needed to tell the story. I felt like the Lord wanted me to leave because the conditions are horrible.
Stacy echoes what the film lays out of what's plaguing Alabama's prisons: horrible conditions, staffing problems, and overcrowding. An active lawsuit by the Department of Justice against the state points out the very same thing. These 2 Alabama inmates, Melvin Ray and Robert Earl Council, are both serving life in Alabama prison and shared stories of forced labor, drugs, violence, intimidation, and retaliation.
Now, when you get to the point where you say, that could be me in there, well, would you want to be treated that way, or would you want your son treated that way?
Stacy even described how he used to cut single bars of soap into 4 pieces because there wasn't enough to go around. He says inmates are treated worse than animals.
Oh, well, those are inmates, so we don't care. But those animals, whew, man, we don't want to be messing with those animals. And you said, we're not going to give those animals a bath. We're not going to give those animals medicine on time. You know what people would do?
He hopes the documentary can finally be an agent of change.
We want to treat them just human. We need a maybe a full bar soap.
That was Nate Ballinger reporting, and we did reach out to both the Alabama Department of Corrections as well as Governor Kay Ivey's office to get their thoughts on this documentary. We've yet to hear back.
New at 5, Georgia prisons are holding more inmates than they did just 2 years ago, but state leaders say they're still understaffed. It's a problem WJCL 22 News Investigates has been tracking for more than 2 years. A Georgia Department of Corrections commissioner recently told state lawmakers while the agency is working to improve conditions, there's still a long road ahead.
It's still a long ways to go. Some of our prisons are still sitting 50% vacant, 70% vacant, depending on location.
Right now, more than 50,600 offenders are in Georgia state custody, up from around 48,000 2 years ago, and that number is expected to keep growing.
I think by 2030, we're looking at over 55,000 inmates, which are current physical capacity or operational capacity in the state sitting at 53,000 beds.
Georgia Department of Corrections Commissioner Tyrone Oliver said right now they have about 1 corrections officer per 14 inmates.
We're trying to get that to 1 to 11 to compare us to the rest of the southern states and states that are around us.
But he insists progress has been made thanks to things like pay raises.
At our lowest point, this was a couple of years ago, we actually dipped below 2,500 correctional officers. We're now well over 3,100 correctional officers.
That being said, Oliver acknowledged experience is thinning. He told state representatives nearly 2/3 of correctional officers now have less than 3 years on the job, a sharp shift from 2 decades ago.
We don't have a problem with recruiting, we have a problem with the retention piece. And so that's why we're working really hard on internal culture, to making sure we're creating an environment to where officers want to stay with us a lot longer.
Meanwhile, contraband continues to remain an issue. The GDC blames drones for much of it. The commissioner saying he's lobbying for more mitigation power.
Until we can be able to have the authority to mitigate, it's just going to, they'll find other ways to get around it.
The state's prison system cutting jobs and inviting some of its non-correction staff to apply for new jobs inside prisons. Now, they won't say how many workers are affected.
Now, this is what I want to say. These are different states. These are different departments of corrections, but it's the same issue now. The total prisoners in the United States and the federal system, 2023, is 1,254,000, 1.2 million. I'm sorry. It's a 2% increase from the prior year, showing the prison population is still rising. Now, the United States remains among the highest incarcerating populations in the world. In many Western democracies, incarceration rates are a fraction of ours, but here, certain states incarcerate more than 1 out of every 100 people. Now, here's the scary part, because Black Americans are disproportionately incarcerated in many of the states at 2 and 3 times more than their population share. This is not opinion, this is statistical inequity. Now, if you don't understand the numbers, you cannot assess the outcomes. National correctional staffing has declined. Total correctional officers and staff dropped from 237,000 to 211,000, despite prisons still operating. Georgia largest percentage drop in staffing between 2019 and 2023. North Carolina reportedly a 40% vacancy rate in corrections jobs, with major cuts year over year. Louisiana staffing still below in 2019 levels, even after pay increases. Tennessee and Mississippi, some increases recently, but structural vacancies remain high. Understaffing is not a minor administrative anomaly. It is now the defining operational condition of many prison systems. It's also, here's the humdinger, bro. A lot of times when you're being attacked by the enemy, it doesn't look like an attack. It looks organic. It looks natural. But I am telling you, I am showing you that the violent rates And all of these institutions are rising. The unaliving is increasing. And it is the individuals of color that are filling up these bunks, filling up these cells, and filling up these graveyards.
Several Department of Corrections staffers told 13 WMAZ this week the agency held meetings this week at its Forsyth headquarters with workers from around the state. One worker shared a form that said jobs are being eliminated as of November 15th and invited people to list jobs and locations they'd like to move to. The state prison system employs more than 12,000 people statewide. It's headquartered in Forsyth.
In the last 4.5 hours or so, the Georgia Department of Corrections says that the prison was put on lockdown. But now that the sun is up, there are family, friends, and loved ones that still feel like they are left with more questions and answers this morning. And here at the Waycross Police Department, they receive a lot of calls with those questions. People trying to figure out exactly what happened inside of the Ware State Prison that led to a riot. And I want to show you this video new into our newsroom this morning. You can see what appears to be a pretty sizable fire around the Ware State Prison. We're still working to learn how that started. And we're also...
Now, sometimes it sounds as if, or it feels, or it looks like I'm blaming the people who are supposed to provide security, when in fact, it would just be the most logical thing to just stay out of prison. Before reform can work from the outside, each person must choose to stay out of the system altogether. A single mistake can become a lifetime statistic, folks. You have, in the state of Georgia, you have a higher chance of dying in general population than you do on death row. Imagine that, bro. We're in the month of February. February? Yeah, February. Bro, we've had it's February the 22nd. We are having the most deaths we've ever had in the state of Georgia, in Georgia Department of Corrections. If you're on the streets, if you're free, I need for you to start understanding how serious this shit is. Bro, find your illegal gig and avoid environments that cause you to take risks. Engage in community intervention programs, support bail reform and sentencing reform, advocate for mental health and addiction treatment alternatives. We got to teach our young men that this shit that we seeing in the music is garbage. Anytime that you are talking, anytime you take a black person and your art or your gift from God is talking about killing other black people, you need to find you something else to do. We got to start shutting this shit down, because this is a fucking fast track to mental instability of our youth, and it's sending these kids to prison, bro. It's sending them to prison. And I can blame the white man all kind of ways. You've heard me do it. I can do it. What I'm saying is we got to start taking accountability amongst ourselves, bro. We got to stop pushing this BS. We have to. We have to. And because if we sit here and we just say, oh, it's them. It's them. They put it on us. Man, let me tell you, it sounds good. Here's the reality of the situation. A lot of the stuff, we push it on ourselves. We push it on ourselves. We have this culture about us. We have this keep it real street niggas, gang, all this right here. And bro, it contributes to the increasing prison population. It is not for us. It is not healthy. It is not of God. This shit is going to be the death of us. And when I say the death of us, I mean big letters.
Working to confirm the authenticity of this video, but this is just one of the videos that has people wondering what happened. There are at least 3 videos making the rounds on Facebook, and they are pretty graphic and hard to watch. But this morning, here's what I can tell you that we do know. The Georgia Department of Corrections says that at least 2 staff members were hurt, but with minor injuries. And at last check, the DOC says 2 inmates were hurt, but will be...
Our top story, 2 corrections officers were shot and killed.
We can debate history. We can debate intent, but statistics are present tense. If you're young and listening to this, do not volunteer yourself into a system that is already overcrowded, understaffed, and overrepresented by people who look like you. The revolution is not rage. The revolution is preparation. Don't become a statistic in a report like this. Read it, learn from it, and build something that keeps your name off the roster. Y'all get in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think, man.
Killed on a Georgia prison bus in 2017.